Hi, welcome to the Kitchen Shrink, where real talk meets real life. We're Kat and Cal, two therapists helping you make sense of relationships, emotions, and everything in between. Pull up a chair, let's sort through it together.
Hey guys, welcome. This one today is for the parents out there or for the ones of you who are thinking about becoming parents. And Kat and I are looking forward to sharing this one with you. So here's our listener's question. Ever since becoming a parent, I've been so much more irritable than I used to be. I find myself snapping at my kids over little things, and afterwards I feel terrible, and I wonder if I'm doing lasting damage. I don't want to be this reactive, but I can't seem to stop it in the moment. How do I stop doing this and become a better parent? Oh, I'm so glad you wrote in.
Yeah, first I just want to address the word better parent.
Yeah,
The fact that you're self aware and asking this question already shows what a good parent you are.
right.
And parenting is not for the weak.
Oh,
So let's just reframe a little bit
yes.
of that
Let's
to
just say
I'm
that.
doing a great job and it's a hard job. And so
Right.
we all need good feedback in situations like
Absolutely.
that.
And I think too, what we think is failing as a parent, sometimes I'll reframe that for people in session just to be gentler on themselves because it's normally not what we think it is. But guys, yeah, like Kat said, parenting is no joke. It's the real deal. And Kat and I are single parents ourselves of three kids each, right? You've
Yep.
got three, I've got three. Mine are all adults and out of the house. Praise the Lord. And you're
Not there yet.
you're not there yet. So, but we're getting there. But anyway, we're with you guys on this one, and we can absolutely relate on how tough it is to be a parent. So we're
And
glad
how
you guys
even
are
in the
here.
world of professionalism, how I'm a completely different
Oh
person at
gosh,
home than I am when I'm sitting
absolutely.
in this chair at work. And
Yep.
so even people that you think seem to have it all together or must be really great parents, that we're
Right.
all struggling through the process. There is
Right.
no instruction guide.
Right.
Then and there's many different books that say many different things. So
Mm-hmm.
where's the true answer? The true answer is we're all doing the best we can with what we
That's
have.
oh gosh, that's beautiful. Well, I mean, I think yes, we all lose our patience at some times, and we all have moments we're not proud of and wish we could take back. But kids don't need us to be perfect, right? What they do need is parents that are willing to reflect and repair and reconnect. And we've talked about the Gottman Institute, and they talk about bids for connection, and we've talked about that as intimate partners. But let's talk about that with kids. I think I heard, and this is Gottman information, that we miss up to 70, that's 70% of our kids' bids for connection. Oy, that's a big number. And their bids look like, age appropriate little kids. Mommy, look what I drew. Mommy, look what I drew. Right. And we're like, oh, you can either turn away, which is you ignore them altogether. You can turn in, or you can turn against. I mean, the turning against looks like, hey, I don't have time for you right now. You're really being a pest. And turning away is maybe just simply ignoring them. Turning in is saying something like, hey, that's a really cool drawing you made. You worked really hard on that. I love the colors, right? So hitting that 100% of the time is just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to be aware of when our kids come to us with that bid for connection. Teenage years might be, oh man, I had the worst day at school, or my best friend really hurt my feelings today. If you can stop, and I know it's not always practical, but if you can try to notice those as bids, see those as bids after today's episodes, I want you to see your kids as, sometimes we go, oh my gosh, you're so irritating, you're bugging me. Those are bids for connection, and you're not going to catch all of them, but that's part of your homework this week is that a bid for connection where I'm really seeing that as they're just really irritating me? They must need something from me.
And I think this is like a good segue into the fact that we can kind of hold two truths at one time, that our
Yes.
kids have needs,
Yes.
and as adults we're holding a lot of invisible things that our kids don't see. And being
Absolutely.
aware of your nervous system and where your response is really important because you know a lot of parents experience guilt over
Right.
knowing that their kid has a bid for connection, but they just got
Mm,
home, they're trying to start dinner, they're
right.
thinking about the how they have to get to a certain practice,
Oh
whatever,
my
right?
gosh.
And so
Yes.
it's
Yes.
it's usually an unintentional miss on a bid for
Absolutely.
connection because we have a level of capacity and an overwhelm that's going on. And
Right.
so part of meeting a bid for connection, surprisingly, a tune in or turning in like you're discussing is
Right.
being like, I really want to see that. Can you give me 5 minutes?
Absolutely.
Because it's okay to model that you have
Yes.
limitations, that you have capacity
Yes.
too. And that doesn't mean you're missing a bid. You can give yourself a minute and
Right.
then
I love
turn
it.
into.
I love it. That's kind of like the please hold, right? Hey,
Yeah.
I love you so much. Mommy's right in the middle of making dinner. Let me get back with you in 10 minutes. I think that's a beautiful way to go about it because we're still catching it. We're just getting to it when we're able to. And that's a good lesson for kids too. I think, our nervous system parents before our words do. If we are,
Absolutely.
jacked up and we've had a hard day or we're upset about something, and kids they don't just hear our words. They hear our tension, they feel our anxiety, our irritability. I mean, so really, you want to try to regulate yourself first before you have those connections between your kids. One thing I've heard is HALT, HALT, and it's like, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? If those, which is like, we're like, yep,
We're
yep,
parenting
yep.
ourselves before we're parenting our kids, basically.
Right. All parents are out there going, yes, 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 and yes. We're all of those things because that's what looks like parenting, especially if you have more than one or two. I mean, my goodness, it's hard to grab those bids for connection, but try to regulate yourself first, right? Because when your nervous system is overwhelmed, your parenting is going to get hijacked every time.
And I can say, as a kiddo with like having a kiddo who has like some neurodivergence and some really high intensity, that there are moments where my desire to parent him well also means I do have to take a pause. I do have to take a
Absolutely.
minute,
Yep.
because if the mom guilt steps in and is like, don't miss a bid for connection, well, then I jump in and I'm more likely to be irritable. I'm
Right.
more likely to respond poorly
Yes.
because I didn't give myself that minute to
Yes.
regulate myself, to ask, am I hungry? Am I, what
Yeah.
was it? Hungry?
Angry,
Angry?
lonely, tired,
Yeah,
halt. You
exactly.
just put your hand up. Halt. Stop, mom.
Yeah,
If you're any
yeah.
of those things, take a break. Let your kid know you'll be with them shortly, but take a break and regulate yourself. And yeah, I think that's a really good point. I always say life is in session, right? Like we're all going 100 miles an hour. And sometimes we get home and the last thing we have any capacity for is for kids tugging at our pants or, I got to tell you something. I got to show you something. Mom,
Yeah.
mom, mom. And
Especially if you go from one hat to another really quickly. If you have a short commute home or
right.
things like that,
Yeah,
you can really feel like you're jumping from one thing to the other. Or you
absolutely.
leave work, go to the grocery store, come home, start dinner.
Yep.
It can be really overwhelming. And that doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It
Right.
means
Yeah.
you're at capacity, and breaks
Yes.
matter, and regulating, because we do care about our kids' bids for connection. And we typically,
Yeah.
usually
Yeah.
enjoy the things that they want to share for
Yes.
us
Yes.
or
Yes.
share with us. And
Yes.
so,
I think I heard or I read once, and I hope I don't mess this up, but I think it's the gist of it. If you look at percentages, like we miss up to 70% of their bids for connection, but there's also a big percentage that we get to repair, and oftentimes we miss that. And I want to talk about this in this episode about repairing because I think that's the most important piece is if we go back and repair. I mean, we're teaching our kids that, this is life. People have moments where we can't always connect, but I will come back to you. They're going to remember how they felt in those minutes. So I think, going back to her saying, I feel like I'm failing my kids. I mean, we have to kind of check what's the story you're telling yourself. I'm failing. I'm ruining my kids' lives. Good moms don't yell. Everyone else has this all figured out. Challenge those beliefs because kids need emotionally honest parents, and it is okay to say, I am so overwhelmed. I've had such hard things today. Can you give me 10 minutes and I'll come back to you? That's the piece that they're going to remember, and they're going to feel that my mom paid attention to me. So, the kids sometimes they're acting out and they're crazy. And I mean, you think, God, if they didn't act that way, I wouldn't be yelling, which is true, right? Why are you yelling at me? Well, if I hadn't have told you 7 times to do that, and now it's the eighth, right? And that's such a common thing. But we got to look at too what's behind the kids' behavior. That's, I think, a good thing to stop and say, because what's their behavior trying to tell me versus how do I stop this? They're driving me nuts. What's going on behind that? Behavior is kind of the smoke that's in front of their behavior. So kids act out. They're tired, they're scared, maybe they're hungry. We don't know what's been going on in their day.
maybe
Are
they
they,
missed you all day and they're just excited to see you.
oh, there's that. I miss you,
Yeah,
mom.
and I think it does help when you think, about regulating yourself before engaging. I think it does help too to kind of take a second to realize that maybe your kids can be an opportunity for a breath. Where when they say, "Can I show you this?" or "Can I tell you about this?" that can help turn off all the other
Right.
responsibilities that our brain is running at, because
Yes.
kids have a way of grounding us back into the importance of the moment
Right.
that we tend to just kind of skip over in all the to-dos.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so when they do want our attention, sometimes our nervous system can calm
Yes.
just through the connection itself, can be a
Absolutely.
way to kind of breathe
Oh,
into that
I
moment of,
love that, and so much connection. That's a good framework around that, and it helps you when your kids are mom, mom, mom. maybe this will help both of us.
Yes, maybe this will help
Yes,
both of us.
I love it. And I mean, again, kids don't need the perfect parents, but let's talk about repair a little bit, because I think the question is not always, are we going to mess up? Because we absolutely are. I think it's some of, what do you do after you mess up? That's going to be the really important part that kids need to hear. Yes, mom was irritated and she came back to me and I feel safe again.
And I think in order for a good repair, which we may have talked about in previous
Mm-hmm.
episodes, we really do have to separate guilt from shame.
Right.
Guilt says I can take accountability for maybe how I reacted or how I could have done that differently because I
Right.
love you and I don't want to hurt you.
Yes.
Where shame says I'm a bad parent, I'm a bad person,
Right.
I should have known better. And shame can be really hard for accountability because shame tends to attack the person as opposed to the behavior. And so
Right.
if you're feeling so much shame around being a bad mom or a bad dad,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be really hard to take accountability because you're in preservation of self versus preservation of child, and that can feel very polarizing in either or.
Absolutely.
So remember to challenge shame and just hold acceptable guilt. Like everyone made mistakes. This didn't go
Yes.
how we wanted it to
Right.
on both sides. I mean, they were annoying. They came in the house with a million
Yes.
questions.
Right.
Then we're not going to blame them or shame them, right?
Right.
But they had a part, you had a part. It's
Right.
not that deep. We're just addressing our part to help our child feel safe and connected again.
Yeah, and I think part of our part is looking at, I've said before, you didn't get a choice on how you were parented growing up, but you do get a choice on how you parent your kids. So please know that there is hope, and even if you feel like I've messed up so much, there's some hope in that. And I love that you wrote in with humility to say, I'm worried I'm messing my kids up. I always say we're doing the best we can. I mean, I don't think any parent wakes up and says, how can I mess with my kids today? Although I do laugh and say I have had teenagers in the past, so that might come into play every once in a while. Hopefully they're not listening to this. But I mean, let's look at like your own past, right? I mean, you don't want your kid to be responsible for healing your childhood wounds. So I mean, am I parenting from a place, am I responding to my own child or am I responding to my own childhood? That right there is like an entire episode, right? I mean, you don't want them to be responsible. You don't want to hand your trauma over to your kids. So that can look like you might expect perfect behavior because you were really punished as a kid. You might need quick obedience because chaos feels unsafe. Or you take disrespect personally. And I know that's kind of a hard one. I mean, because we want to become controlling because that unpredictable behavior can feel scary. But I think especially when they become teenagers and they can get a little mouthy. I mean, do you personalize that? That's a tough one. I mean,
Yeah.
it can feel very personal. I mean, you've probably had, if you're a parent out there, depending on the age of your kid, a lot of us has had one or more of our kids say, I hate you. And that is painful. I had one of my kids say that to me, and I think in that moment, it just, my heart sank. I don't remember what I said. I'm kind of welling up thinking about it. I think I maybe said, I love you in return. I don't think I said anything else. Woo, I'm getting emotional about that one. But it is hard when our kids, they really can poke at us and really get some tender pieces of us in the motion where we want to try to stay out of that emotional arena. I love logical consequences for parents. If your kid is messing around and they're being careless with their toys and they break their toy, you don't have to have a lot of emotion. You don't need to shame their kid. They just no longer have that toy.
Yeah.
Right. Or, when the kids are starting to drive, I told my kids, I'm going to check immediately. Are you safe? If you've gotten into an accident, if you're safe, that's my biggest concern. My second one is, were you doing something? Were you screwing around? Did you have more kids than you said you were going to, all the things? And if that's the case, then that $500 deductible is going to come out of your pocket.
And that's another thing that really I think can get missed sometimes in parenting, that parenting doesn't mean you're just always making your kids happy and you're always, meeting every emotional need, because sometimes, I mean, honestly, as people, we learn through all kinds of experiences, and some of those experiences are a challenge, like
Right.
having patience when you're already in a conversation on the phone, or learning to I remember my kid learning how to put on a fitted sheet, and it was just such a battle, and I'm like,
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
here with you while you do this, but I'm
love
not
it.
doing this for you. And so
Yes.
that to be an emotionally available and present parent does not mean that we just make our kids feel good and make them happy all the time.
Right. Yep.
To be honest, I didn't get that right with my first. I was very enabling because I cared so much and I never wanted them to be hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that ability to say, hey, we can wait a second, or we can do this hard task, or we are going to pay for the consequence of our actions.
Absolutely.
Because that teaches a lot about accountability, and a good parent provides structure
Yes.
that isn't just about accommodation at all costs of the human parenting them.
No, that's a really good point. I appreciate your honesty on that, Kat. I think there's a term of, a lot of people hear, helicopter parents, but there's a snow plowing parent, and that's somebody who goes through and they plow the drive so their kids don't have to experience any pain. If that's
tried
you,
so hard to be like that.
oh,
I'm
if
not gonna
that's
lie.
you, let me tell you, that is not going to bode well for your little human that grows up and they have real world serve them a poop sandwich and they're not going to know what to do with it, right? So you don't want to do that. But let's talk about love languages a little bit. We work on this a lot with intimate couples, intimate partnerships, but with your kids, sometimes making them feel loved and special, you just ask them, be honest, Mom, what does Mom do that makes you feel loved or special or important? They will hand it to you on a silver platter. You're going to get something like, I love when we go to the movies together. I love when we take a walk together. Or I love when you buy me something special. Or with my youngest I love when I come home and my room is all cleaned. And I was like, well, what else you got, kid? Because
I don't want to do that all the time.
acts of service. But they will tell you. And then, you just try to sprinkle that in. And even if you can take 10 minutes a day with your child or each of your children with undivided attention, and I know that's really hard, but their little cups will be so full. It doesn't take like an afternoon or an entire day. It's these little sprinkles of connection that your kid knows, my mom's there for me.
My first training as a therapist was in PCIT, which is parent-child interaction therapy.
Yes.
And they actually said that research says your kids only need 5 minutes of undivided time where they're the center of focus. 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
That's all they're asking
That's
for.
so hopeful. Doesn't that feel good for us out there? We're like, I don't have any 5 minutes of undivided attention. Your kid, their little cup is going to feel so full, right? And so again, it's like they're going to remember how they feel in those moments, and that's the stuff that's going to make them feel connected and that there's a secure attachment with my parent.
And those 5 minutes are no rules, no games, just whatever the child's focus is, you join their world. So if it's playing, if it's talking, that it's just unstructured so that the kid has the chance to kind of be in control of the 5 minutes, because there's so much of their world that is just so controlled by the adults around them.
I love it. I heard somebody say once, like, the first one is when your kiddo comes in for a hug, never be the first one to let go. I know, right? Ooh, I just saw your face like, wow. Try it,
I've
guys.
got a kid who would just never stop.
I know. I feel
so
like
much
one of my two are like, okay, we're good, pat, pat. And then another one, and if you're listening, you know who you are, we'll just hang on. And it just gets to be this long, but I love it. It's a very connective moment. But try not to let go of your kids' hugs first. The other one is, and this can feel very impractical, is if your kid comes to you with a bid for connection, do your best to drop things, because trust me, they grow so fast, and the next thing you know, they're out of the house and you feel like, I don't even know my kids. So you really want to do your best to grab those connections. But let's look at the repair.
Can I say one thing? Just because your kids are out of the house and mine are still in the house.
Yes.
So for anyone who hears something like that and has a little bit of like, we don't have the kids out of the house yet. And so there are moments where it's like, I just don't want anyone to feel guilty when it is hard to drop everything else to give your kids that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Because you miss it in hindsight. And so it's good to remember. I remember somebody when the kids were really little being like, they're only so little. And I would picture putting moments in jars because I wanted to hold on to every moment. And also now that I have, two that are teenagers almost out of the house and one that's not, there's such a stark age difference that I have to be really mindful to still stay present in younger years and soak them up. But it takes mindfulness now because as they get older and you're like, all right, they're moving on and I got to get some independence to hold on to some of that childhood. It really does take intentionality, and that's not because you're like not appreciative, not thankful, not grateful, and not loving your kids. It's because it's hard when you're in it in the everyday. So it does take a mindfulness to be like, okay, I have to stop. I can put this aside. I can shift gears because this connection, it does go fast and it will be gone soon. So
Yeah.
You almost have to like soften into the resistance because the resistance
Yes.
can be present,
Right.
and that's normal
Absolutely.
because you're carrying all of the parents' hidden loads of financial stress
All
and
the
work pressure and
things.
lack of sleep and decision fatigue and
All of the
relationship
things.
struggles. And so,
Yeah. And I mean, this, we're not saying you have to be happy all the time. That's just not going to happen. I mean, kids benefit from seeing your stress, your sadness, the
mm,
disappointment, as long, this is the important part, as long as they also see regulation,
yeah.
coping, recovering. That creates resilience in our kids. So I think, they don't need parents who never yell. They need parents that say, hey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled. I'm sorry I screwed that up. That wasn't your fault. Can we
Yeah.
try that again?
Can we try again? I love
Yes,
that.
that repair piece is so important. I mean, it's way more important than perfection, right? And that's where I want to give you guys some hope is, if you've never apologized to your child, some people say, well, that's my kid. I'm not going to apologize. Why not? I mean, if you screw up, why not? What do you look at? You're looking at me like,
I'm
what the
yeah,
heck? Yeah.
so much to say because I remember sitting with somebody who had a 2-year-old child and they were just like, this child should know to listen. And I was like, I want you to look at the
Oh,
size of your hands and then the size of their hands. I
little
want you to
babies.
think about the size of your brain and the size of their brain. Who should
Mm.
be the one who listens?
Oh,
Who should be the one who sits in that space?
oh my gosh.
You're the adult.
You're the adult.
And yet, as adults, we really
Mm.
do expect so much from a growing little mind. It's a
Isn't that the
growing mind.
truth? Yeah.
We are
Oh.
the ones who are adults, and we can't regulate ourselves, so we want them to regulate themselves so we can regulate ourselves.
No, it doesn't work that
That's
way.
it doesn't.
No,
And
nope.
it's why it's hard to be parents because we do
Right.
have to model accountability, not perfectly, like we talked
Right.
about with
Yes.
repair,
Yeah.
but understand at the end of the day,
There,
it is our
this.
job. They didn't ask to be here. We made them.
Right.
We brought them here.
Yeah, we did
We
that.
are
Yep.
responsible for their safety, for their comfort, for their attention, for their self-esteem.
Mm,
It's a big role, but
it's
we
a
all
big
picked
role.
it.
We
And we
picked
didn't
it.
pick it so that kids would make us feel better
Right.
and do what we want.
Yeah.
We picked it because we want to shape the next generation into
Right.
people that make the world a better place or
Yes.
whatever your motivation around parenting
Yeah.
is. So the
Yeah.
responsibility is a
It is ours.
responsibility.
Yes. So, which I think blends right into like connection before correction, I'm going to
Mm,
say. Don't start with discipline. Man, we want to. We're hot on it and we want to catch it right away. But listen, if you can slow it down, start with some eye contact,
mm,
lower yourself down to their level. I'm telling you, if you whisper to your kids, they will freak out because they're like, what the heck? Mom's doing something different. They're going to pay attention to that. So lower down, use a softer tone, and be curious because their nervous system will settle when you start to do some of those things, and then learning becomes possible because if their nervous system is up and you're yelling, they're not going to learn anything other than how I just felt when that all went down. So kids don't learn when they're in survival mode, so let's go for connection before correction. And then also, here's a good one. Give yourself grace when you mess this up as a parent. If your best friend came and said, oh my gosh, I just totally flipped out on my kids this morning, would you say to her, wow, you're a terrible parent, you're failing? I don't think you would. Give yourself the same grace that you would say, you know what? We all have our moments, but repair is what I want to go back to, guys.
yeah.
Repair is going to be a really important piece. It is okay to tell your kid, I'm sorry. It's okay to say, I messed that up. You're going to teach kids that apologizing is important
And
and,
normal.
and normal.
And recognizing mistakes is not a problem.
Yes, and they're going to be a lot more resilient when they get to see all of those emotions from you.
And I don't know if it's helpful, but when my kids were little, I'm an out loud processor, so I would have to catch myself in the moment. Like they would do something, and then I'd be like, "What? What are you, 5 or something?" I
Yeah.
had to say it out loud to remind myself that they're still little. Like, why did you do that? Oh wait,
He's
are you
looking at you
5 or
like,
something?
yeah,
Like,
I am 5, Mom.
how many
What's
times do
about
I
to
have to?
happen?
Oh wait, because that reminded me to put it into perspective of what I was saying and
Right,
who I was saying it
right.
to,
Yeah.
because you gotta keep yourself aware.
Yep. I have one more point that I want to kind of circle back is that we're talking about the 10 distraction-free minutes. Ask yourself, what does my child need? Not what do they deserve? Because oftentimes when we feel like they're misbehaving, we're like, you deserve some discipline right now,
Mm.
versus what's going on with you? What's happening behind this behavior? Almost always it's, I miss you. I need to feel like you love me. I need to
Mm.
know that you're going to show up for me. They can't verbalize that. They don't have that at that age. Some adults don't even have that, emotional capacity. Little kids don't have that. So, here's some things that predict healthy kids. Secure attachment. That means I know that parent is always going to be there for me. So many people say, I didn't get that. The nurturing wasn't there. Each time your kid comes and you catch that bid, you're going to increase that secure attachment. Emotional responsiveness, this predicts healthy kids. Consistent repair, warmth, predictable boundaries. That's a big one, right? Get your boundaries and stay consistent and don't make empty threats. When kids feel emotionally safe with you, that's what we're going for. What doesn't predict healthy kids is never yelling, perfect lunches. They've got the Pinterest birthday or the house is everything we see on Facebook. That's not going to give you a really healthy kid. It's that raw, real stuff that's going on. But you stay securely attached. You give them the emotional responsiveness, that consistent repair. You're going to get kids that feel safe in your presence, and they're going to grow up to be adults that have, healthier mental health and responses within their relationships as well.
Yeah, and I would say there's some real practical ways to reduce reactivity before it starts.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them are going to look like making sure you're getting enough rest.
Yes.
Making sure that you're eating and your coffee isn't always cold. Lowering your unrealistic expectations. Again, how old are they? What can we ask of them?
Right.
Making sure you ask for help and you have a village around you so that you're not doing everything alone.
Right.
Building in moments of joy so that even when things go wrong, it can be adjusted or changed. And then addressing kind of like the most stressful times, being able to talk to that about your kid.
Yeah.
What do you think went well today? What do you wish you would have done different? Here's some things I did well and some things that I wish I would have done different, and creating routines that kind of reduce that chaos. Because if everything's running on whatever's happening in the moment, it can feel really out of control. But when we have routines, that can decrease some of the opportunities for chaos and therefore reactivity. So
that's making me think of something that I did with my one kiddo, and this is a really great way not only to teach your kids gratitude, but for you is at the end of the day, I would always say, what was your highlight today? What did you notice good in the world today? And so that's a great little way to connect with your kiddos. But so takeaway also, Kat gave you some good ones, but homework this week, notice one bid that you usually miss. Pause before reacting and repair one interaction. It's just as simple as saying, you know what, I'm sorry I messed that up. We don't want to, and that's a period at the end of that one. It's not, but if you didn't do that, or if you do this, none of that. It's, I'm sorry I messed that up. Okay, your kid isn't keeping score of every mistake you've ever made. They're building a story about whether home is a place where love returns after conflict. So every time you reconnect after disconnection, you're teaching them one of the most important lessons they'll ever learn, and that's relationships can bend without breaking. So until next time, guys, take good care of yourself and each other. We'll see you next week. Thanks for being here at the Kitchen Shrink. We're really glad you showed up today. Be kind to yourself and stay connected. We're Kat and Cal, and we're here for you. Real talk, real tools, real life.